I think it's go time today. Hey, great to have you tuned in today. I'm Patrick. I work with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, Kansas City Homes, where I'm the Director of Agent Growth and Coaching. And basically, that means I am a full-time business coach for all of our agents throughout Kansas City. We've got 350 of them throughout our 7 locations. And every week we come up with a new topic to present to the agents. And today we're showing it to the whole world if they wanted to watch. So we're excited. But every Thursday, pretty much every Thursday, we'll come up with a topic that's really a skill building type of topic where it doesn't matter how experienced you are, how many homes you've sold, how long you've been in the business, but hopefully you can take something away. Definitely you can. That's the whole point of me coming up with these topics and these classes is so you're able to come and take away something that benefits your business. And most of all, benefits your business's bottom line. That's what it's all about. I've been in real estate years this year. I sold for 9 of those years and was a broker of an office. And now I get to coach our agents. So it's a thrill to have you tuned in today. You're in store for quite a treat today because we've got this panel of kick-butt real estate agents. And not only are they kick-butt agents, but they're kick-butt women real estate agents. And we put together this panel because all month long, all the month of March, we've been talking about being a listings-based agent, having a listings first focus. And that's what it's talking about today with this panel of how you can maybe take your business to the next level. Doesn't matter how experienced you are, like I was saying, you get the opportunity to maybe take some fresh new ideas from this panel today. And so let's get right into it. I think I should bring them up on the screen and see how they're all doing today. I've got some from almost every one of our offices, and I'm going to introduce them one at a time as we go along here. So let's bring on Georgianne Hayhow. She's out of our Mission Farms office. Georgianne, good to see you. Hello.
Hi there. Good morning, Patrick and everyone.
Yes, thanks for coming with me today and going on this journey. I want to bring on Marianne Coast. She's also out there at our Mission Farms office. So I'm going to add her onto the screen. Hey, Marianne, good to see you. You go to the people and say hi. How's it going today, Marianne?
Good. It's going great. Hello.
So glad you're here. We're going to go north of the river for a second and bring on my good buddy, Tiffany Allen. Tiffany, how are you doing? You're out there in that conference room today in our Northland office. You can wave at the folks. How's it going with you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Also in the Northland, well, my good buddy, Tanya Hewlett. She's out of our Liberty office. I'm going to add her onto the screen. Looking good, Tanya. How's life treating you today?
Doing great. Good morning, everybody.
Good to see you. And certainly last but not least, out of our College Boulevard office out in Overland Park, we've got Sherry Timbrook, everybody. Look at this powerhouse group.
Good morning.
Sherry, good to see you. Good to see all of you guys today. And we've got a great crew that's watching us live right here on Zoom. There's a great crew that's watching us live on Facebook and YouTube and wherever else I decided to put this thing. And maybe you're watching the recording maybe later on, but we're so glad that you're tuned in because each one of these women today are going to give us some unique insight about their business. And I guarantee that you can take something away from this as an agent. And so I'm going to just, reshuffle my screen here and just bring up just Georgianne, because I'm going to start with you, Georgianne. So bear with me and I'm going to pull just you up. Here we go. And you're the one, Georgianne. It's your power hour right here. Maybe not the full hour, but I think it's really interesting to talk about each one of your businesses a little bit differently because each one of you does things a little bit differently. Georgianne, you've got this awesome team that you've been leading. And sometimes in life, we see somebody at like their destination. We see them where they are right now in life, but maybe we didn't catch their journey of how they got there. And you have such a great journey story that maybe you could just share, maybe like the 45-second version for the people watching. Do you want to share how you got to where you are?
Sure thing. I'm happy to do that, Patrick. Thank you. Well, I mean, I guess more than anything, I'm a scrapper. Like, I didn't have business handed to me or anything like that. I've been in real estate for 28 years. And for the first 8 years of that, I was an admin. I worked the front desk. I worked for one of the top agents in my office, but it was fantastic because it gave me such a good background for how to do contracts, how to talk to people, who's going to need what at what time. And I really loved having that background. And honestly, a lot of times when I have someone new coming to my team, I will give them administrative stuff and pay them hourly just to do that work and really get that experience, because I feel like a lot of people, our company is different because we have great training, but a lot of new agents go to companies and they just don't have the tools they need. They don't know how to write stuff, do stuff, talk to people, how clients need things. And And so I really loved having that background. And then later, after I got my own license and I met my husband, we teamed up together, and he was a complete rock star, even if the Super Bowl says we can't say that anymore. So, and then we worked together for a while. And then after he passed away, I took over the team and have just a really strong core group of really great women. We're all ladies, and each one sheds a unique view and perspective and business background. And I think that's really cool.
I think that is cool. I mean, it's so true that it takes a lot of effort to get to have a successful real estate business. And I think you're the testament to that hard work pays off in the long run. And you've built this amazing, successful team. We're so glad that you're alongside with us as a company. And tell people, obviously listings has had a portion, a good piece of your success has come from focusing on listings. Do you want to share any insight to the group about that?
Sure thing. So, I love both sides, so I can't be like, I love one or the other better. I love working with buyers, and I love working with sellers too. I think that for listings though, I always feel a different type of responsibility. It's been so easy the last couple of years where you put a house up and it's gone. But that's not a realistic expectation for how real estate works. And I always just, right now I feel really strongly for my buyers because it's difficult for them. But historically, I would say more often than not, it's a little bit harder for sellers. And it's not just getting the listing, it's staying in touch with them, keeping them up to date on what's happening and how we can all work together. I've already set that framework ahead of time with them, but continuing to always be in constant communication. But listings are a very important part of the business, as we all know, because right now there aren't enough of them.
There's not. We need more listings. Let's go get some today. Let's get out of this class and go get some listings. How about it? But I'm gonna come back around to you. So stick around, and I've got some other questions for maybe later on. But good insight to get to know you and your business. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us. But I want to bring on Sherry Timbrook next because she's out of our College Boulevard office, and Sherry is not necessarily newer in the business, but you are working on building your listings base. Tell us just the brief version of you and who you are as an agent.
Yes. So I've been licensed now for about 2.5 years, and I lived real estate vicariously through Ron, my husband, for the 30 years that he has been an agent. And I've been able to see how he's built his business and the relationships. And the longer that I'm in the business, the more I see that some of his past clients keep coming back to him. And so the integrity that he brought into that. But so I joined from a background of event planning. I was an executive assistant for a CEO of a big company. And so I think that what I am able to do is to bring the background, my history, my past career, and to help create a really fabulous experience for clients. And so that's kind of me.
I think that's cool. I mean, you are a true and true real estate agent because so many real estate agents, it's a second career. And maybe somebody's watching this today that's thinking about making that leap. Maybe it's just one of my Facebook friends or somebody that's found us online or one of your Facebook friends that's saying, you know what, maybe a career in real estate is right. And I think today's panel gives you some great insight about what it's like every day. Sometimes we paint this rosy picture of real estate, I'm going to make some fast money, but we know that it's a lot of hard work, and you're working every day, Sherry, to build your listings inventory. Why are listings so important to you and your business?
Well, obviously the first reason for that is for each of us as an agent is just the return on our investment. I'm very much of a relationship person, and so my buyers, all of us spend a lot of time with our buyers right now because of low inventory, but I build and build and build those relationships. But with listings, you don't have as big of an opportunity to build that relationship because you put it like Jordan was just saying that our inventory turns so quickly that you might only be working with a seller maybe a month before they're putting a house on the market, and then 2 days later that's done. But I think that just the amount of time and that whole return on investment and just the value that we get for that. But I also see that in the listings that that I've had for the last 2 years, and a lot more than I realized I had. And I started counting all of those up, and it's because they go off the market so quickly. But I think that just building those relationships through listings, the referrals that we keep getting off of those, and seeing the stream of referrals that come when we do a really stellar job for our clients.
Listings and sellers lead to so much business. We talk all the time, at least I do in the classes that I teach, about having that listings-based business, focusing on listings, because you can typically handle a lot more listings than you can the same number of buyers. Because like you said, there's low inventory, so we're driving around all over the place for our buyers. Nothing wrong with that. We love that part of the job, but at the same time, you can handle more business, becoming more efficient with your time, which is one of our core values this year, becoming more modern and efficient. And so having that listings first focus, I think, is such an important thing for an agent. I'm going to come back to you too, Sherry, but thanks for giving a little insight. Great job to both of you so far. We're so glad to have you. I'm going to go north of the river, which I know is a long ways for some of you. Just kidding. But I've got Tiffany Allen. She's out of our Northland office. I'm going to add a spotlight to her because Tiffany, you and I added Sherry again. Hey, Sherry. Sorry. Hi. How's it going? Good to see you again. But we're going to skip that and go back to Tiffany here. There she is. Listen, Tiffany, you and I started in real estate at the exact same time. Did you ever think about that? You and I trained together. You think about it all the time. That's funny.
Yeah.
So you and I trained together. We, worked together. We were in those training classes one-on-one. It was almost like a 2-on-1 type of training thing. So you and I ought to have the same mindset because we were trained by the same people. But anyway, talk to me about you and your business, just real brief. Tell the people who you are and what's going on with your real estate agent business.
Well, I don't know what's going on with my business. I feel like my business has always been people centered. Like, I know what you guys are saying about listings and they are important, but for me, buyers have always been my bread and butter because those buyers eventually turn into sellers. And they often have family that move in and want to be around them. And so that's kind of more of my focus. I feel like spending a lot of time with buyers, because a lot of times the sellers I have end up leaving the community, but the buyers are coming here, they're buying here, their families follow them, that kind of thing.
I think that's an interesting point because you're right that when you sell a listing, sometimes those people move out of the area. Now they could become great referral partners for you in the future, and I'm sure that's happened to you. But you're right, when you have a buyer, you have the opportunity to build that relationship that maybe becomes a lifelong client. So that's kind of interesting to call out. Okay, but don't sell yourself short, Tiffany, because you took 16 listings last year, by the way. So you must have a good focus on listings. I do want to ask you though, because you and I started at the same time, and it's real estate's a hard industry, isn't it? I mean, we see agents that get in this. I'm the one that oftentimes gets them trained and educated and set up for success. And we have a really high success rate for all of our agents that we bring on, especially the brand new ones or the ones that transfer over and are, wanting to take their business to the next level. That's kind of what we thrive in as a company. But there is a really high failure rate for real estate agents in the market. And I don't know, I asked you maybe as we were prepping for this session, what do you think it is that sets maybe you and I apart, or all of the agents that are listening that are successful, apart from those that just maybe have failure to launch or just can't quite take it? What do you think it is?
I think the number one thing is treating it like a business, because it is, but coming into the office is so key. I have never been able to say I'm going to be at the office at a certain time every day because our schedule, I have a buyer that wants to see something at 9 o'clock in the morning. I can't commit to always being at the office at 9 in the morning, but being here on a daily basis is what I tell the new agents consistently. Like, be here as much as you can because there's opportunities for learning, education. And then if some of us older agents need the help, we will go to the newer, younger agents and do some of that admin stuff that we might not have time for, or pay somebody to show for us or something like that. So being in the office is key.
I love that insight. We're live today. Tiffany, thanks for joining me. And I've got so many people watching on the Zoom, and maybe you are just tuning in, seeing us online for the first time. Today, we've got a listings-based focus panel, and it's a panel of women real estate agents that are right here with us with Better Homes and Gardens, Kansas City Homes. And they're focused on building a great book of business, not only with buyers, but especially listings, because we know that a listings-based business becomes more profitable, is a better use of our time. And so we've got a great panel of powerhouse women listing agents that are with me today. I'm going to keep it up north while I'm at it, and I'm going to bring on Tanya Hewlett. She's out of our Liberty office. Tanya, you and me, we go way back. Can you
Oh,
believe
yes, we do.
Tanya, by the way, I'm up here in Liberty today. I get to travel around to all the offices now that I'm Director of Agent Growth and Coaching. I've been that business coach for our agents. And so I spend a couple of days each month at all of our different branch locations. And so I'm up here in my old stomping ground. I had to drive a matter of 3 minutes to get here today since I live in Liberty. That was kind of nice. But, anyway, talk to the people about you and your business just real briefly.
Well, I got into real estate. This is my 16th year. My focus initially was just building a business, period. It was 2007 when I got into real estate. And so it was very, very difficult. And I fought my way through it and built some relationships along the way that has turned into some of repeat business, referral business, which is really what it's about, is building relationships to continue your business. And so I was just really lucky in that factor that I also had a very good broker that was hand walking me through it, because she knew what a tough time it was for me, that it was the market was crashing. I was trying to start a new career, and I'm a perfect example that you're never too late to start a new career, because I'm 30 years old when I decided to jump into real estate. So, you're never too late for it. And I'm thankful every day that I made that choice.
You become one of our top agents, and I think it's a great story to tell how you started at the bottom and now you're here. Not to quote a song, but there you go. I mean, look at you. You started at one of the hardest times to start in real estate, one of the most difficult times.
Definitely had to claw my way through it.
Yeah. You mentioned your broker, and I've got to brag on our broker staff, because that's what it's all about at our company. We've got full-time non-selling brokers who are there to support our agents. And if you're watching this thinking, you know what, I kind of need a little bit more support, well, maybe it's time to talk to us a little bit and have that confidential conversation, not to jab in that recruiting plug too much, but listen, we've got what it takes for our agents to become successful. You've become really successful, Tanya, off of really building a niche or a niche. You work out of our Liberty office, but you live a little bit further north in a little bit more of a rural community with some acreage properties and all of that. Tell people about your niche, first of all, but also, has that helped you get more business, creating that niche and niche? Talk to them about that.
Well, the rural properties, acreage properties, farms, that's kind of a natural progression for me. It's what I was raised around. It's, where all my family lives. They live in small rural areas. And so for me, the value that I provide, I think, it's 100% added value by me having the knowledge, the insight, everything needed to guide sellers on, putting their house on the market, what it takes. That knowledge gives me confidence, but it also gives sellers confidence in my knowledge, that I can answer specific questions that they have, that they might have. It just really makes a difference in my career that has ended up being my niche, is the rural communities, farmland, acreage. And I think knowledge is key on that. And so, kind of like what everybody else is saying, you build those relationships with those sellers and buyers, and they recognize the knowledge that you have and what you bring to the table, and they refer you out, and it's recreating business for me.
Not only that, but you really have become known as that expert of that type of property in that community. And you've got a really wide radius that you're able to reach with your niche. And maybe somebody that's watching today is thinking about, okay, maybe it's time for me to come up with a niche myself. And maybe you don't live in a rural area like Tanya does, but instead maybe you focus on a certain generation. I really worked well with baby boomers when I was selling. So I kind of targeted maintenance provided type of patio homes. And so maybe that's something that you think about doing. But I don't know, start thinking about how you as an agent watching this today could come up with that niche or niche, however you'd like to. Depends on how fancy you are, how you say it, I
They
think.
both work.
Over here on the Missouri side, I think we say niche, but anyway.
Yeah. Where I come from, it's niche.
Anyway, Tanya, I'll come back to you just a little bit, but thanks for giving us a little insight of who you are and your niche and your niche, because I think that's a really powerful thing for an agent to do, is come up with a focus that is your target market, because we can't be everything to everybody. That's not the way life goes. And, I think they say 20% of the people in the world aren't even going to like you. Well, they can't even like themselves to start with. That might be part of the problem. But the insight there is that if you come up with your target demographic, your market that you work really well with, well, then your business will benefit in the long run. I want to go, certainly last but not least, by any means, I've got Marianne Coast here. She's out of our Mission Farms office, and I want to add a spotlight to her. Marianne, tell the people about you.
Good morning. I entered the real estate business in 1981, I think December. My mom and I both got our license at the same time. So, and I was in Oklahoma. So I worked 5 years there, started in Coast Realty with Larry's dad, who was a developer, home builder in that town in Bartlesville. So I was in the office with just myself and two old men who were like from the Depression. Yeah. So they were in their 80s. And I was 22 or something like that. So I'd talk about, back then, Tommy Hopkins was the big trainer. And I was just like, gung ho, ready to go, but no training, nothing. And here's the phone. And I was a broker from the get-go, because I did help with closings in the office. And our contracts were like one page. They were practically blank. It was just filling hardly anything. So that was easy part of it. But I did learn about running the office from DB and Al, the old guys. But they told me, I was like, I'm going to farm, I'm going to do all this. They're like, that doesn't work. And, so I had to kind of overcome that part of it, but moved to Kansas City. Praise the Lord. So we were in that depression of the mid 80s and the high interest rates. So I think it was 18% when I got my license. So we were just trying to be creative with home building and builder buy downs of buying the rate down to 12 or 13. People were sleeping on the sidewalk for 13% interest, for bond money. But it was like a wow when I moved up here, because I was, in this busy office with Cole Banker, David Cooper. The reason I interviewed with and like Cooper was the non-selling broker part of it, because I was not used to that in Oklahoma. You were used to this owner broker selling. So I really like that. And I leaned on them for training. And I really have stayed with this group through all their transitions. And I've enjoyed that and getting to know people. But so I started with, we expanded Larry's business and infrastructure. And so I literally knew nobody. And we did board duty. I would literally call just out of the phone book. And that's back when we had books about this thick that were cross-directed addresses and phone numbers. So I just really just called, knocked on doors for sale by owners, expireds, and just kind of worked my way to, getting listings. Now, I have to say listings, I've always been a stronger lister. I was always like 60-40 listings to buyers. But back then, a lot of my people stayed local. So I was in the Olathe area. So I worked a lot of Olathe, Johnson County mainly. But of course now I'm all over the place. But that's because the internet and everything has just made everybody be able to go further and feel more comfortable doing that. So referrals across the city have changed dramatically. It's like, oh, if I'm going to list somewhere up in Liberty, I'm going to call so-and-so. And, that you kind of did that in a referral through the offices. But I would say building just relationship, and those people who were selling back then, you had a lot more listings because they just weren't selling. So you really had to work the listings. And pricing, and then you had the responsibility of somebody buying another home and having this home and then having that other payment if their house closed, and you had that contingencies, sometimes double, triple contingency dominoes, and it was just pretty hard, I would say, but we worked through that. And so a lot of sellers bought and then stayed, and they've been long time, like 30-year people are still calling me going, hey, I used to work with all these cute first time buyers. Everybody's like, how come your buyers are so darling? And I was like, I'd put them in a house and then they'd start having babies, and then as I've aged, I've got these people that are now out downsizing and selling that house that they bought in 1989
They're
or
lifelong clients, that's the amazing.
yeah, they
thing
are.
about,
That's the thing. But you're right. If they're local, if they're relos, you have them and then they're gone. So that's changed more, I would say. But yeah, the relationship is key. I think my biggest adjustment is figuring out maybe farming is not what I'm going to do now. And I did it back then. And I had my kids handing out flyers, hundreds of, my kids worked in the business with me. They grew up with it. So, I'm more now trying to just do more of the ninja relationship with my core people, and then narrowing those 600 people down to like 300 or 200 or something that's more workable and not so overwhelming to keep that relationship going, where you feel comfortable just reaching out and saying, hey, let's go to lunch, or picking up the phone and seeing how they're, how they're liking their place.
Marianne, I don't want to cut you off, but you were telling me about your 150, what was it? What was that name that
so I've been just reading a lot about, and Dunbar's number, he was some scientist, don't ask me what, I think he was, it wasn't even a real estate related number, but it just is that number that is anything more than that is just too much to keep close. And then there's like, your tribe would be like 50. And so you have this, it narrows down, he has these names. If you Google it, you'll see all these graphs about it, but they're talking about your tribe being a smaller group. And then, then your core people he was just saying about, I think it was actually 148, but he rounded it to 150 is enough that you could be comfortable being in a personal relationships. And outside of that, you could probably have more people on your list, but maybe you don't call them. You just do the mailing, like the calendar every year I've done for 30 years, or the royal schedules or the chief schedules, but maybe you don't get as personal with those people, but they're there. But because you never know who might call you.
There's no probably maximum of the number of people that we can reach. And Marianne, thanks for the insight there. I think that's great. I'm going to come back to you too, because I've got another question following up for you in a little bit. But what Marianne was talking about is having that core focus. Maybe you've gone to a training program that talks about your A or your A plus people, or maybe you've gone to a program that categorizes your people in different ways. That's kind of what that 150 is. And maybe you're somebody that's newer in the business that's just started and watching today. Having that list of 100 people is really the most powerful thing that you have as a real estate agent, to be able to reach out to people, because there's a stat out there that says about 5% of your database is going to move sometime in the next 12 months. And so if you can capture that 5% of those people, that'd be 5 people out of 100 on your list, then that's better than 0 deals, right? So anyway, some good insight there. Georgianne, I'm going to come back to you, because I want to give these people that are watching, and maybe they're just tuning in, we're watching this listing panel today with a top group of women agents with our company that are really just talking about listings. That's kind of fun. Are we having a good time so far? Are you having a good time, Georgianne? I hope so. How about it? She's nodding her head, so that's a plus. I want to ask you, you go out to a lot of listing appointments, you and your team members do. How do you know? You don't always know that you're going to win the business, right? Sometimes that you're even competing against another agent. What do you do to make sure that you're the one that client chooses? How do you make sure you win, whether or not you're competing?
Well, Patrick, I would say, getting the appointment is kind of that first step, but really being prepared for the appointment when you get there is super important. And there's a lot of things that that we can all do to come across as the most professional and the best choice for this potential client. And, most of the time we have a day or two to prepare. So that really helps. Take advantage of that time. Don't waste the time. Don't just rely on maybe some old history photo in MLS for their market reports that you'll be printing. Go drive by the house and take a picture of how it looks now. Also take some mental notes. Is it amazing? And does it look 1,000 times different than maybe the history that you're finding in MLS when it sold 7 years ago? Or maybe have they not done anything? You need to take all that stuff into consideration and be prepared with the listings that you're selecting, because you want to be valuable and you want to be knowledgeable and you want to have a good idea of what their house is. If you have an opportunity to ask qualifying questions about capital improvements, things that they've done to the home, things that they need to do to the home, take really good notes and then try to select listings for your analysis that will fit into that. Because it doesn't do any good to just have empty words and say a bunch of stuff when it's not even relevant. Relevance is a huge, huge thing for all of life, not just listings, but you really want to bring that value because you need to stand out toward another agent, but also be knowledgeable about what you bring on the regular basis. And, what does the communication look like? And what's the process look like? You have to explain that whole thing to them, and do it in a way that's respectful of their time. I'd say also in advance, make sure they know that it's going to be either a 45-minute or hour-long appointment. Make sure that you have enough time to go through all of the things that you're bringing.
I think that's really powerful. I took two things away out of what you were just talking about, probably more that I could have taken away, but one of them was knowledge is power. The more information you can have ahead of time, the better you're going to be as an agent. And secondly, do more listening than you do talking. I like that 80-20 rule, 80% listening during your listing presentations, 20% talking, because we call it a presentation, but really we're there to get intel off of the seller and to figure out what their needs and wants are so we can adjust ourselves and better serve our clients. So I don't know, Georgianne, any other takeaway before I wrap up there?
Well, I think from the value perspective, it's really important for agents to understand their strengths and weaknesses. And, it's a little bit slanted here today because you're talking to agents who have a long history, a lot of clients. We do a lot of transactions. So of course, when we're on a listing appointment, we're like, oh, I do this and I'm here and I rank this and I've got this award and all of that. Well, not every agent has that. And I just want to say, no listings, no problem. You can go out and get them. You can still win listings. Know the market that house is in. Know your value and what you bring to any game. It doesn't mean that you've been in the business for 14 years and you're number 3 in the company. But if you have great marketing and maybe you have great social media, maybe you have great connections around town, like anything that's a plus, sell it because you're selling yourself.
I love that. No listings, no problem. That's the quote of the day. I like that. Okay, the people after you, ladies, you're going to have to come up with a good quote like that. I don't know. But Georgianne, I'm just teasing. Georgianne, great insight. Thanks for being with us, and stick around with us. We might have time for a Q&A or see if anything else comes up at the end. But everybody in the chat saying great point to you and great insight. Everybody, we're live today. You might be watching right here in the moment. You might be watching the recording too. I still like you, even if you watch the recording. And I can see you. I mean, I can't physically see you, so don't worry too much. But I see you there. I see you watching. I want to go a little bit out of order. Tiffany, are you ready for this? Where's Tiffany at? Let's bring her up. I know where she is. She's up there in that Northland office today. We got 7 metro locations, one all over the place. And it's funny because there is a difference between Northland business. That's where I primarily sold out the 9 years that I was an agent. And Tiffany, that's where you live and work. And you'll sell anywhere in the metro. But there's a difference between Northland and south of the river or Johnson County type of business. Why is it so important as an agent to be familiar with the areas that we're working in, especially as a listing agent?
Well, it's important to be familiar with, but I want to point out that since we are a border state, I think it's super important to be licensed in both states.
Mm-hmm.
I do give referrals out when I'm in an area that I'm not comfortable, way out in some rural community. I'll give it to Tanya, but I do take some Kansas listings even though I don't live in Kansas and I don't often work in Kansas. But when I do a Kansas listing, I'm going to do as much research as possible. I'm going to contact maybe some agents that work in that area or do a lot more Google searching about things. Because your listings, your sellers, they want to know that you know the area and you know the good things that you can point out about the community to the potential buyers out there. So.
You got to know where you're going. And really, if you're a realtor member, like most of us watching are, it's in our code of ethics that we're familiar with the areas that we're working in, that we know how to properly help a seller determine the value of their property. Of course, we're not appraisals, but we're doing reports that help them determine what we're going to list the home for. And part of that realtor code of ethics is that we're knowledgeable in the area and the type of property. And so that's why I wanted to ask that question, Tiffany, because sometimes, I don't know, some of us Northland, and I'm sure some of us that live in Johnson County see it, where an agent comes in from outside of the area and we feel like, oh my gosh, they completely undervalued that property, or they left money on the table for that seller. Well, you owe it to your client when they sign that agreement with you to be that fiduciary and have that responsibility to know what you're doing. And so part of that comes with training, like what you're tuned into today. But part of it just comes with knowing the area and the property. I think really valuable. Tiffany, you're looking good up there in that conference room today. Good. Blue's your color. I like it. She threw me the peace sign. I like it. Tiffany, you're funny. I love that. I want to go down to Sherry if I could. Sherry Timbrook, I want to talk to you just a little bit about any advice that maybe you've heard. We talked about how you're still in the process of growing your listings business. What's a piece of advice that you could give to the people tuned in today that might be helpful for somebody that's at that same stage of their career as you?
I think the most helpful advice I have is that I don't need to chase all of the bright and shiny stars that are coming along. I know all of you, just like me, have an inbox filled every day with different marketing opportunities. We guarantee we'll get you 2 listings if you do this, or X, Y, Z, or if I buy this program, if I do that. And I've chased a whole lot of those. And what it all comes back to is for me to find 2 or 3 just very foundational pieces that I can know that are working in my business. And that I don't need to just keep adding and keep going to seminar or training or whatever. Within our company, we have such amazing training that we don't really need to look outside a whole lot for that. I think one of the first things that I did was grow through the greenhouse, which was very foundational for me. But it all goes back to, it is the relationships, it's the one-on-one, it's the daily discipline of being out with the people that you know, whether it's on the, I tend to feel guilty if I'm out on the tennis court playing tennis, but I get business from the people that I play tennis with, or if I go out and have wine with a glass with girlfriends. Those are all very key and very relationship building. And that's where I'm seeing our business come from. And so I can leave aside all of the little bright and shining things that are coming through, although there are some really, really fabulous programs out there.
Those bright and shiny things, they sure can be tempting, can't they?
Very much so.
It kind of relates to my best piece of advice that I'll give a new agent is to run your own race. And it's kind of the same thing. You don't have to do everything that comes your way. And I was mentioning Tiffany and I started at the same time, and it'd be really easy to compare each other with somebody that you've started around the same time or that's had quicker success than maybe you have. Listen, we're all on our own journey, and I know that sounds cliche, but the reality is somebody could focus so much on somebody else's life that they don't end up living their own life in the journey. So you've got to run your own race and focus on yourself, because your hard work that you're putting into it, just like you're doing, Sherry, is going to pay off in the long run and build that successful business where somebody that's focused on somebody else is just caught up in the moment. They're not looking for the future. So anyway, little Patrick insight for you today. How about it? But Sherry, thank you. That was great insight. Just focus on, like Sherry said, those 3 things. That's her big focus. And maybe you pick yours as an agent today. I want to bring up Marianne. And Marianne, I want to talk to you about when is the right time to ask for referrals, because that's an important part of all of our business. We've mentioned that today, that every one of us here is a relationships business. There's a relationship-based business. So you got to ask for referrals at some point. We have to build that skill of asking for those. When's the right time, especially when working with the seller?
Working with sellers and asking. Well, when I go on the interview, I'm asking those questions about, their move and what their history of, if they ever sold before, and their comfort zone in selling and what they like and didn't like. I'm just trying to get some insight. But, during that time, you might ask them if they know anybody else who's going to be selling in the area, because then it's on their mind. So they might mention that somebody in the neighborhood's going to sell or just died or something. They just know what's going on around them and it's on their mind. So they're talking about it to everybody. So that's a good time to maybe mention if they know anybody else who's moving, or if they have any investment properties they're going to be selling that they might need to also sell at the time that they're moving. So anyway, during that, so if you have face-to-face time during the listing or marketing part of it, or the escrow part of it, you're going to be with them quite a bit, talking to them a couple times a week, if not more. So it's just when an opportunity comes up, without being too obnoxious about it, that's a good time to do it.
Yeah, you never want to be salesy. And it's funny because on our business cards, we probably call ourselves sales professionals or, whatever that stock wording is. Listen, none of us are salespeople. We're not here to sell something to somebody. We're helping them feel good about the decisions that they're making, very usually in real estate. And it's hard because you don't want to cross that fine line of messing up the relationship by seeming slimy and asking for business all the time. But the reality is, when you get down to brass tacks, you've got to ask for referrals, because that's what our business is based off of. And all you have to do is ask. Sometimes you don't get it just because you haven't asked, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
What other insight could you share to the group, Marianne, that you wanted to bring? Anything else you wanted to bring up today?
Well, I think, are you going to ask us another question, or is this it?
Well, I wish I had more time.
Okay. So you brought up communication about being able to handle more listings.
Yeah, good topic. Talk about that real briefly. What do you do to be able to handle more business?
That's not our problem right now, of course, because you go on a listing, like, how many listings do you have? None, or one, because they're all pending. And so it's not like I'm holding 20 listings. That's our big problem. And that's, I think, what's keeping our volume down over what it did like 20 years ago. But I think in fact, I'm better when I'm busier. I'm just, clicking. So, I just think everybody's probably better when they're busier. You just get more done. But I set the expectation up front, and I have kind of my role, and then Larry works with me. So I'm more of the marketer, but it helps to have processes in place to make it easier for you so that you don't forget something as you go along your line. But so that's good to do. Communication is probably the biggest problem. If you get a lot of listings, I set that expectation up front, because that's usually if I ask them what was the problem, was always communication. If they didn't like their last transaction, or I never heard from them, or maybe the agent's just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to call them because nothing's happened, but they want to know that you're working for them, even though nothing's happened. So maybe you do a review every 2 weeks, make sure you're priced right. And if they call you first, that's the big problem. That you're doing something wrong if they call you first. So I usually call on a Thursday, Friday. Then Monday, I'm reviewing if anything happened over the weekend or didn't happen over the weekend, or maybe it's time to ask for a price adjustment. So just communication, I think, is the big thing if you're handling a lot, and having somebody to help you do the other stuff, putting signs in, meeting people. And that's what Larry does. He's more of if he's meeting a painter, or he's letting an inspector in or something like that. So he's licensed. So
yeah, you're fortunate to have that help. And maybe
somebody it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody watching today is thinking, well, I don't have a spouse that's all that good with putting signs in the yard. I don't know. Does that relate to anybody?
It's important.
Maybe that's a qualifier you should put on your dating app. I don't know. Maybe that could be one of the new swipe right criteria. But the thing is, maybe you look around your office that you're in and see who else is maybe hungry for the business that you could pay a little bit to go run some of those errands, making sure that you're doing things that are correct if they need to be licensee activities or that type of thing. But who can you rely on in your office office or within your own sphere that you might be able to do that. And we didn't get the chance today to talk about when it's the right time to hire an assistant, but I think that's a great topic that maybe as an agent, you sit down with a broker like one of ours and talk about, okay, I'm ready to go to the next level. When's it right to bring on some extra help? We've got somebody like Georgianne who's got a whole team that surrounds her that's able to help with activities. So build those connections with the people that you've tuned into today to listen to.
A
And
transaction coordinator or whatever,
Yeah.
that would be a big help during that escrow period, because you're trying to keep the ball rolling, the five wheel, just keep it going. So
well, you're trying to keep one ball rolling and you got 5 other in the air at the same time. So it's a lot. And you're right that it's good to, you don't have to carry that burden all yourself. You can ask for help and get somebody to help you. And that's sometimes what it takes to grow your business to the next level too. So Marianne, thanks for spending some time with me. I got to bring up Tanya before we wrap up today. And Tanya, you are a wonderful marketer. That's one thing that I've always admired you, because we worked alongside each other. And who was it, Sherry, that mentioned Grow? Tanya and I went through Grow together, and now I'm the one instructing Grow, but it's a great productivity training that we offer. We just did one a couple months ago. We do it about 1 or 2 times a year. It's just one of those coaching and development type of programs that we offer. And I think, I don't know, take it the right way, and maybe tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Grow that helped pivot your marketing, Tanya, to the next level and come up with maybe a more systemized marketing plan. Anyway, my blabbering here is to lead you to talk to us about what you do to market your listings that set you apart.
I think it's important to remember that marketing isn't after you get the listing. The marketing starts at the listing appointment. You're showing them your marketing plan, you're marketing yourself to them to show that you're the best to go with, to the best agent to market their property and get it sold for them. And so that, I think that's important to remember. I think that when we talk about marketing, we look at the big scope and it's like, oh, it's social media, it's, it's online, it's a presence here or there, but marketing starts at the listing table when you're at your appointment. Some of the things that I do, and it's because I have more of a rural farm acreage type database or, center of influence. And so I think it starts with your photography, because everything is going to go online. And if you don't have a good online presence, then you're not doing the sellers any kind of a benefit, because you lose out on an audience immediately by not having the videos, the drone videos, anything that you think is important for that, to highlight that listing. You need to start with professional photography. I didn't use professional photography for a while, and I will tell you that it completely simplified my process. I didn't have to worry about whether I was in a mirror someplace when I took a picture, and didn't have to edit them, didn't have to do any of that. And it really took my business to the next level, I believe, by switching to a professional photographer and drone photographer. So I start with that. A lot of what we do is what other companies do as well. Your social media, your online presence, all of those things are similar. And I do touch on that with my sellers as we're sitting there going over my marketing plan. I do touch on that. We have value. This isn't necessarily anything that's just unique to us. Other agencies will offer this as well. But I go a step further with the photographer I use. They give you a unique website that's unique to that address. And our, BHG has an awesome, marketing plan like that as well. But some of the stuff that I do outside of that is, you're wanting to focus on their property. You want them to feel like they are your focus. And so I do, full color brochures, flyers if needed, but with the brochures, I put all of the disclosures, everything. I make sure that those are at the property for showings, and, online, social media, all of that is definitely a part of it. But I also do some stuff on the side that, especially if it's a rural or a land property, I market and pay for marketing outside of the regular marketing. So I buy ads on like horseproperties.com, there's land.com, landandfarm.com. There are actually websites out there that don't pull from the MLS. And so I think it's important that you know that you're reaching as big an audience as you can. I also do the paid email blasts. And I don't know how many people actually look at those flyer blasts, but even if it's just a handful of people that are looking at it, it's worth the money. And so whenever I do a just listed, I'll do a paid email blast. And I've tried a couple different companies. I found my favorite. And what's nice about it is that you can not only blast out to the Heartland MLS agents, they have other outlying MLSs that you can reach that you can send to as well. And I've used those a lot, especially with my larger farm properties.
All it takes is one. All you have to reach is
Yeah.
one person.
And Western Kansas, that's farm ground. So, you never know when somebody is looking to move back in to the Kansas City area or the outlying rural areas. So I mean, some of the stuff I don't think it's anything like, a major thing that I do differently. I just make sure that I give the best online presence and present that listing in the best light to get the most activity for it.
I love that. And something you mentioned that stuck with me was that it doesn't always matter how many people see it. It could be that you're building up your marketing portfolio to use on your future listing opportunities too. Obviously, our goal is to sell the property and get the eyes out in front of that listing, but we also have a responsibility to market ourselves as that CEO, as a real estate agent. And so I think that's helpful. Tanya, you took 19 listings last year in 2022. So obviously it's working for you. I'm going to bring the rest up. Marianne, you took 18 listings. I hope you're okay with me sharing that, but what a something to be proud of for all of you guys. We talked about Tiffany. Tiffany, let's bring you up and say hi. You can wave at the people. And, we loved having you, Sherry, on the call too. Let's bring you up. Isn't this fun where I just get to run everything on the computer at the same time that I'm talking? I'm pretty okay at it though, I must say. And then last but not least is George. And look at this panel of women today. What an awesome, it's one thing to be a woman, which by the way, women are the backbone of the real estate industry. They always have been, they always will be. It's a predominantly woman business. And that's such a powerful thing that each one of you on this call today is that CEO. You are that person that runs your real estate agent business. And I hope that gives inspiration to those of you that are watching this panel today, because it's such a powerful thing, even if you're a man, to be that CEO of a real estate agent business. So I think that's really a great thing. But listen, you guys gave some great insight today. And I just loved it. I hope you had a great time. Did you? Smile with me if you did. There you go. But I had a great time with you guys. Thank you. I want to just pull up one last thing as we wrap up here today. I want to show you my information, if there's ever anything that I can help you with, if maybe it's time to talk about what we can offer you as a company. Those of you tuned in, watching live or watching the recording, you got my contact info there on the screen. My whole job is to be there for the agents that are with our company full-time as a business coach for them and help them become the best well-trained and prepared agent that they can be. So reach out to me anytime that you'd like to. That's what I'm here for. But listen, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate you watching wherever you might be. I'm up here in our Liberty office today, but reach out if there's ever anything we can do for you. We'll see you next time. Take care.